Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm excited about today's topic. I think it's extremely relevant. We're going to be talking about finances and how right now in this moment, a lot of people are looking for ways to spend or even trying to receive stimulus checks and unemployment benefits and SSI and other types of financial resources during this pandemic. We know that this is a really hot topic, so we've invited a panel of experts to speak to different aspects of this issue. We'll first hear from Nicholas Love, who happens to be an expert on working while receiving benefits. We're going to hear then from Brittany Chipley, the executive director of the AZ-ABLE program here in Arizona. And then finally, we'll hear from attorney Robert Fleming, who is also really involved with the AZ-ABLE Oversight Committee, but in his own right is an expert on life planning and legal aspects when it comes to financial trusts and things of that nature. So get those questions ready, and we are going to start off with Nicholas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So my name is Nicholas Love. I'm with the World Institute on Disability, and there's so much confusion in the world normally about receiving benefits and working, and COVID has only compressed that into a lot of confusion. So what I'm going to offer you is a website that can help not only during this time period, but also in COVID. So I'm going to offer you, hopefully a lot of you are aware of, Arizona Disability Benefits 101. We're going to put that in the chat box. That is the DB 101 website that Arizona has. And it is there to be able to provide, thank you, Jeff. It is there to provide information about how going to work can in fact actually be beneficial for those who are on benefits. So that's regular information, but during this time of COVID, we have actually added in information. So on DB 101, there is a news section, and in that news section, there is COVID resources. And those resources will directly link you to up-to-date information on stimulus checks, the CARE Act, your SSI, your SSDI, unemployment information, as well as other resources around TANF or SNAP, food stamps. Those benefits are all there. So right now what we're dealing with is the fact that those receiving SSI, SSDI do get stimulus checks of $1,200, $500 for dependents. Not all dependents are going to count, and there is a great disparity within that, which we are trying to address. The deadline to qualify and get those dependent $500 expired yesterday. So if you did not file taxes last year and you receive SSI, you actually need to go and now file taxes next year. And that's something that is all written out very easily, going to DB 101 in the news section, and then into, thank you, Sarah just gave you a direct link. Into the news section, there's a COVID, and you can get all this up-to-date information. What is happening right now is people are actually in a place where people might be losing their jobs. If they are losing their job due to COVID, apply for unemployment right away. There is a way to apply for unemployment directly onto the website. And with getting those unemployment benefits, on top of that, there's an additional $600 a week due to the COVID CARE Act. So that additional $600 is actually, sounds kind of sad, but it's kind of a benefit right now, right? So you get your unemployment plus the $600. That $600, none of this is considered a resource limit, and therefore is not going to impact any of the benefits. The stimulus check and the $600 of unemployment, if those accumulate and become above the resource limit, that could be an issue. You have 12 months to spend that down. This is really confusing information, but again, completely written out if you go to the DB 101 website into the COVID. So I see right now an opportunity to actually start planning for during this financial time for a new normal as we exit the COVID quarantine. Um, I think it's a great opportunity to be able to take those stimulus checks and those unemployment checks and then contribute those back into savings, such as an ABLE account or a PASS plan. I know Brittany will talk more about the ABLE account. Perfect opportunity to put that in there. Again, that won't be a resource now. You won't have to worry about a spend down. So this is an opportunity I think people can then set aside money to actually plan for the next career opportunity for them. So as you're working and you know that benefits are there to be able to support that work and that people with disabilities can work and actually are better off going to work when they're on benefits, this is an opportunity to then set aside that money into a plan like a PASS plan. Again, you go on DB 101, learn how to use a PASS plan to be able to set aside money for career, for college, for assisted technology. And in the moment of COVID, we have learned that virtual and remote learning and work is really important and possible. This is a great opportunity to set aside maybe that money to get a tablet to be able to help you with accessibility and moving towards employment. It's a great opportunity to kind of look at what are these financial problems and challenges right now and have this money to be able to plan for that future. I am not really even sure what Sarah wanted me to talk about. So I just babble out what I think is important. So I'm going to share in my last few moments that there's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of people can help work you through DB 101. Providers actually if you have employment services, there is actually some competencies that they have to have DB 101. So if your providers are not sharing DB 101 with you, push them. So they will. This is set up. Anyone can go on it and check it out. There are, in DB 101, there is a need more help box. If you have questions, you can click on that, get connected to Ability 360, Center for Independence in Maricopa. It answers questions statewide to help you with DB 101. So there are actually people there to talk you through it. You want me to share what a PASS plan is? A PASS plan is a plan for achieving self-sufficiency. Those who are on SSI or can qualify for SSI, if you're on a low SSDI, you can set aside money, qualify for SSI, Supplemental Security Income. That allows you to create a plan that will help you move off of benefits eventually for a vocational educational goal. You can use it for education. You could use it for some training right now. There's a lot of virtual training that would be wonderful. Assisted technology. You could use it to create your own business, which I think is an incredible opportunity as we work now to be able to get self-employment happening. A lot of people are working remotely and finding out that working from home actually can help them move forward to self-sufficiency. And there are a lot of career opportunities. And I think employers are going to very much look differently at employment when we move out of this COVID moment. So that is something that we would really welcome. You know, set aside a PASS plan to actually start your own business, start your own virtual business. And I think that would be very helpful to a lot of people we're working right now, trying to read what Sarah wants from me. If someone's on SSI and a non-filer on taxes, will they still receive? Yes. So if someone was on SSI and did not file taxes, the Treasury Department, IRS, and Social Security all got together and somehow figured out, for once in their life, how to organize together. So those who did not file taxes will get a stimulus check of $1,200. It's the individuals who have not filed taxes that had dependencies that had to go on and file before yesterday. And if they don't, then they have to wait for the 2021 to file their taxes to get those refunds. I'm sorry, you file in 2020, you get the refund in 2021. And there are ways to be able to file your taxes. I believe everyone who receives even a little bit of money, this is something people don't think about, earned income tax credit. If you receive even a little bit of money, it's actually a little bit above part-time at minimum wage in Arizona, you would qualify for earned income tax credit. Individuals who are receiving money should be filing taxes so that they can get these tax credits back that actually are beneficial to them. And all of this, again, GB 101 will talk you through these aspects and connect you to free resources to file taxes.
I'm going to read two questions that have popped up in the chat. Nicholas, if you can't answer them, don't feel compelled to. Other speakers can cover them too. The first question is the $600 available to a person who receives GSE services for 4 hours per week?
I don't know what you're referring to as GSE services. If someone would clarify what that actually is.
In the chat, that'd be great. And then Kimberly asks, if one works in a group supported employee setting, that's what GSE stands for, group supported employment. If one works in a group supported employee setting at Goodwill and is out of work, would they qualify for unemployment?
Yes, actually right now their criteria for unemployment has extremely open and very relaxed. It's considerably different than it has been in the past. So if you are not working for any reason due to COVID, be it the fact that maybe you're not working not because your job got let go, but because you are I don't like this word, so let me try it differently. If you're an individual with a disability who are at high risk and therefore don't feel safe to go to work, you can, and you stop your job, you could actually apply for unemployment. If you had to stop working to take care of a family member, you can apply for unemployment. Very open right now, and there is no requirement to be looking for work during this time period while you're on unemployment. So unemployment very open right now. If you are not working for any reason due to COVID, apply for unemployment. Same for sub-minimum wage, unemployment. So sub-minimum wage would include that. I can't guarantee you're going to get it, but I'm telling you it's very relaxed right now. All right. If there are no other questions, I'm going to hand this over to, would that be at a reduced rate? I do not believe so. There's nothing on the unemployment that states about what rate are you employed at. So it doesn't hurt to try. The worst you can get is a no, and the best you can get is a yes, plus your benefits and $600 extra a week. So with that being said, I'm going to turn this over to Brittany.
Hold on one second, Nicholas. Last night I heard something about if an employer asked you back to work and you had been furloughed or let go, then it is your obligation to go back to work unless you can somehow provide some sort of circumstances, like you said earlier about.
There is no obligation for people to go to work. People feel that they are at risk. They cannot have to, unless they are an essential. And then there are other discussions related to that, but what is essential is kind of open. One cannot be forced as a right, as an employee. One cannot be forced to put themselves at risk if they are at risk. And the disability community is at a high risk. I'm going to step on a soapbox for a moment. We are at 60% at least of the individuals who are infected by COVID right now. It is a strong issue when people talk about the older or those who are high risk. That is people with disability. People in nursing homes and group settings and institutions are infected at a ridiculously high rate. So this is very much a civil rights issue regarding employment rights for people with disabilities. And if you would like more about that, the World Institute on Disability is continuing discussions, and we are we're launching a whole global response tomorrow. So if you're more interested in that, please contact me. I'm done.
Can I just step out of line a moment and speak to a couple of things that Nicholas talked about? I think what John was saying was that what he heard was if you have been furloughed and been called back to work, Nicholas is right, you don't have to go, but you may lose your unemployment benefits if you don't go back. because the unemployment benefits are predicated on you not being able to work. And so then there becomes an added question whether you have I don't know that they say well-founded, but that's the basic principle, a well-founded belief that you are at risk in the community. So it's a little bit dicey to know whether you will continue to get unemployment. But the other thing that Nicholas referred to is that if you are working, coming back from furlough, or just working, and you have a well-founded belief in your susceptibility to the coronavirus, you may get the federal sick leave, which is different from the federal unemployment benefits. I think it's also possible, Nicholas, I could be wrong about this, but I think it's possible for somebody at minimum wage or sub-minimum wage to end up making more money between the state unemployment and the federal unemployment. The federal unemployment is not keyed in the same way to the pay of the individual in the same way that the state one is. So I think some of our community may actually end up making more money on unemployment.
This is Nicholas. That is accurate. That's what I'm saying. People right now actually could make more money on unemployment in our population to be able then to plan and be more financially secure once we remove ourselves out of this COVID experience.
I see the question came in about what to do about people who get bumped off of their SSI because of too much income.
Right at this time, SSI, SSDI are not looking at bumping anyone off due to earnings. They are not looking at, they will not be removing people off due to these earnings. These earnings are not being actually affected on benefits at this time.
And that issue may, just as let me give you all an insight as an employer, as somebody who applied for the PPP money, because of the way that is configured, it's really for employees, it's not for employers. And that means as all of us who have PPP money get close to our 8-week anniversary, many of us are going to have to give bonuses in order to get the money spent. I say have to with air quotes around it. Of course, most of us would be delighted to benefit our employees, but that's gonna happen in 2 months. There are going to be a bunch of people who are working in supported environments where they suddenly get an extra, who knows how much. It's going to depend very much on the circumstances of the employer. Okay, I can stop jumping in out of line.
All right, I think we're ready for Brittany.
Well, thanks for having me, Nicholas. It's nice to see you in a virtual world. So what I'm going to talk about, as Nicholas mentioned, and also with Sarah introducing me, I am Brittany Chipley. I am Executive Director of AZ-ABLE. And so what I'm going to touch on today is a little bit about what ABLE is, AZ-ABLE, for those of you who don't know what ABLE is. And then also talk about why it would be very beneficial for someone to open up an ABLE account and deposit their stimulus payments into those accounts. And also for those who already have accounts to go ahead and move that money over into their ABLE account. So as many of you already know, the CARES Act is providing, already has provided stimulus payments to many people, including people that we serve and people who use public benefits. So with the extra money, the interest among people with disabilities and on how to best save and protect their benefits is peaking to the passing of the CARES Act legislation, and they're wondering how they can protect their resources and so forth. So I'm going to quickly discuss ABLE and then these stimulus payments. So what exactly is ABLE? ABLE is an acronym for Achieving a Better Life Experience. It was actually passed under the Obama administration in 2014. We actually had our 5-year anniversary this past December, and Governor Ducey actually signed it into law here in Arizona in the summer of 2016. And so what it is it allows individuals with disabilities to contribute to a tax-exempt savings account without affecting their benefits. And so here in Arizona, we launched AZ-ABLE, which is Arizona ABLE, and we are actually partnered with Ohio Stable Program. So how that works is that Ohio is not only partnered with us, but they're also partnered with 10 other states. And so they offer their program at low cost, low fees to Arizona residents. And so that's how that works. So what exactly is the criteria? How do you know if you're eligible to open up one of these ABLE accounts? The first main criteria is that you have to have an onset of disability prior to the age of 26. When I say onset, I mean development. Let me just give you a quick example. You can have a young man, let's say he's around 35. He has a mental illness, he goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, you know what, I can actually prove that you developed this mental illness at the age of 25. He would qualify, he would meet that first main criteria because there was a development on onset prior to the age of 26, even though he was not diagnosed until the age of 25. So he meets that first main criteria. So in addition to that onset of disability prior to the age of 26, and I'm just want to put it out there to let you guys know, myself and all the ABLE administrators and directors across the nation actually are working on increasing that age of 26 to 46. And the legislation out there is called the ABLE Age Adjustment Act. And so we're hoping that will soon get passed. With that, if it does pass, hopefully it will, actually 6 million more people would become eligible for these accounts, including our wonderful veterans. So if you meet that onset of disability prior to the age of 26, you also must meet one of the 3 additional criteria that I'm going to go over. So you have to either be eligible for SSI or SSDI due to a disability, or you have to have a condition listed under Social Security Administration's list of compassionate allowances, which is in their blue book. And typically I tell individuals to just Google SSA's blue book because there's hundreds, if not thousands of disabilities that are listed. And it ranges from cancer to Down syndrome and so many out there. And so if you don't meet 1 or 2, you can also self-certify. It's just with self-certification, we're going to ask for a little bit more information. When you go online to sign up for an account, you're going to have to input your physician's name, the address, the date in which you're diagnosed. And you don't necessarily have to send in a written diagnosis, but we're going to ask you to make sure you have it on hand just in case we need some clarification and some additional proof. So those are the main criteria: onset of disability, and then meet one of those 3. So eligibility quiz is also on our website, and that is az-able.com. It should pop up in the chat. And the enrollment is online, and I say that can't stress that enough because I have had many people come to me and say, hey, I went to Wells Fargo, I went to Bank of America, and I said, I want to open an ABLE account. And people had no idea what they were talking about. So these accounts, AZ ABLE, no account across the nation, ABLE account across the nation, you cannot go to a bank. There's all online enrollment, all online administration. For us, AZ ABLE, it is free and it takes approximately 20 minutes. We stand by that 20 minutes. We actually had a young lady who signed up in 19 minutes with 1 finger. So we really stand by that 20 minutes. It is, to open an account, we typically ask for a minimum of $50. And I want to say that we actually give you 90 days to make that deposit. But yeah, so $50 to open up an account. And then in order for your account to keep going and to stay open and active, you have to have continue to have at least $1 in the account. Enrollment online, it can actually be completed by an LLR, an ALR, who is considered an authorized legal representative, that is a parent, a guardian, or individual with a power of attorney, or it can be actually administered and enrolled by the person with the disability who we consider is the beneficiary. So to learn more, once again, go to the website az-able.com. And then I love to do presentations. So if you have a parent group or a disability organization that I already have not presented to, or I can come back again, I've done that several times, please send me an email at az-able@azdes.gov, and that should also pop up in the chat so you can get that information. So now that I have discussed AZ ABLE and ABLE, let me talk about a little bit of how those who have an AZ-able account may want to, and I feel it would probably be the best to deposit their stimulus payments into their account. So first, and Nicholas already touched base with this a little bit more, but I want to talk about how ABLE comes into the picture. So first, stimulus funds would not count as resources for means tested benefits for a 12-month period following the receipt of funds. So this is in reference to if those particular funds stay into a regular banking checking account, that's considered a resource. However, once the funds are transferred to an AZ-able account, the funds are safeguarded without any time restraints. And the reason for doing it, making this transfer sooner rather than later, is because the stimulus funds, if you let the stimulus funds in the personal account, it can become basically commingled with other personal funds, and it would be hard to account for which part of your balance is basically personal account funds, and then which should be disregarded and counter resources. So, you want to keep that disregarded resources from the personal resource. So we typically can't tell people to go ahead and when they get their stimulus check in their bank account or check in the mail, however it may be, go ahead and just directly deposit it into your AZ-able account. So typically with ABLE accounts, SSI is still considered income, even if it's going to be transferred to an AZ-able account or any ABLE account. However, with these stimulus payments, the payments would not count as income in the calculation of an individual's SSI amount, no matter what. The thing that people have to worry about is the money being considered a resource after the 12 months. So that's what I really wanted to touch base on when it comes to stimulus payments and ABLE accounts. I don't know if we have any questions out there. Let me check my chat. I actually had it closed.
There is one question, Brittany, about putting money on a cash card not linked to a bank account. And I believe the question was asked about how those funds would be viewed in relation to your benefits.
If it's not in an ABLE account, it's going to be considered a resource. It doesn't matter if it's a cash card, a debit card, whatever the case may be, a savings account. The only protection is an ABLE account from something, from money being counted as a resource, and also from stimulus payments being counted as a resource.
And then there's a question earlier that I just want to let the person know we're saving for a later speaker who's going to talk about guardianship. Erica did have a question for you, Brittany, to ask.
Hi, Erica.
How many ABLE accounts are there now? How successful has the program been?
We're actually doing phenomenal. Arizona is ranked first in the amount of account openings for all state programs that launched in 2018, which is when we launched. Right now, with all openings, we are close to 1,000. But when you take into account the accounts that have become inactive, we're closer to around 850-ish, somewhere around there. I know, Erica, I see Erica says, yay. So I see there's another question. How can a person use funds if they are in an ABLE account? So that's a very good question. So funds have to be used on what we consider a qualified disability expenses. That is number one, anything that relates to a disability. And then number two, helps to basically live your life, health, independence, quality of life. Typically, I tell people that this is an IRS program and they're really not looking to, basically harass people about what they're using their funds on. So it's very broad. It can range from, I had a gentleman asked me about purchasing CDs or music for his autistic son. Would that be considered a qualified disability expense? He said, well, explain it to me. He said, well, it helps him calm down, etc. I said, the first statement right there, helps him calm down. That is considered a qualified disability expense. The typical qualified disability expense is going to be housing, food, purchasing, transportation, assistive technology, the day-to-day, whatever. That's what's typically what people use their funds on. But it can range from purchasing music for your son or your daughter, or possibly purchase a plane ticket to go to a medical appointment. What I can tell you is there are basically 5 main things that are not considered a qualified disability expense. Number 1, alcohol. Number 2, tobacco. 3, adult mature entertainment. And 4, so we have alcohol, tobacco, adult mature entertainment. Gambling is not considered. And then also, they don't want people taking funds out of their account and just gifting it to someone else. So those are the 5 things: cash gifts, tobacco, adult mature entertainment, alcohol, and gambling. Any other questions out there?
So just a reminder, if you're on the phone and you want to share verbally, you can push *9. So that'll raise your hand on your phone, and we'll call on you. And if you want to share verbally and you're on the computer, you click on the participants button at the bottom, and then the raise hand button will pop up on the bottom. And you're welcome to keep the questions in the chat going too.
Well, I hope the information I have provided is useful.
What,
this is
a new
just
question.
Oh, okay. Is there a maximum amount that can accrued in a is? Yes, wonderful. Okay, so these are contributions. The annual contribution limit is $15,000 per year. Okay, annual contribution. When I say annual contributions per year, and that's anyone can contribute to these accounts. Family, friends, you know, whoever, your grandma, your neighbor, you know, whoever can contribute. You typically describe these accounts, GoFundMe accounts, on steroids, because anyone can contribute, and it's helping people achieve life independence. So that's the maximum amount. I would say, however, if the beneficiary is working, and they can also contribute an additional amount to their per year to their account, and that's up to the federal poverty line. And I want to say that's a little bit over $12,000. So actually, their annual limit can go from $15,000 per year to $27,000 plus per year.
Two more questions have
Can
popped
it
up.
be rolled over from year to year? Well, I'm not sure what you're asking, if it can be rolled over from year to year, but 15,000 maximum, that's actually tied, that's federal law, is tied to the gift tax. Like I said, these are tax exempt savings accounts, so you can't go over the 15,000 per year. But you can have rollovers. So you can, if you have a 529, that money can be rolled over into an ABLE account and things like that. If you're closing out one account in another state and you move to Arizona, that money, you'll have to close out that account in that particular state, because you only can have one ABLE account at a time, and you can roll over that money that you had in that particular account to your Arizona account. I see another question. I know we can use the debit card for purchases at a vendor, but how do we withdraw money from the ABLE account? So withdrawals can be made various ways, typically through, third-party check. You might have to transfer that money to another account and take it out that way, or you can give the customer service a call, and they can issue a check to make withdrawals. So and it's so I would say it's like this. It's not like regular bank accounts, because it's for protection reasons. We don't want people getting taken advantage of. And even with the debit card, you actually have to move money out of your account online onto the debit card. It's not like my regular Bank America card. Whatever I know that's in my account is accessible on my card. It's not like that. You actually have to move money, go online and log on and move money onto the card. And so we have it this way. We're making withdrawals and, basically loading the debit card for protection reasons. Can a member have an ABLE account and a here's the thing. Rep payees in the state of Arizona and most states, rep payees cannot actually open or administer an ABLE account for someone. It may change in the long run. I can tell you that there are initiatives out there to change that law, but that's going to be up to the IRS and Social Security. And once again, that's for protection reasons. So, however, if someone has if someone has a parent and and they're also their rep payee, then that's how it can possibly work. But you can't just be a rep payee and open and administer an account for someone else. You can't do that. What happens to the account funds if the individual passes away? Okay, so there is a Medicaid payback. However, with the Medicaid payback, well, let me backtrack a little bit. First, it's going to go through the normal probate because you cannot name a beneficiary with these accounts. The only permissible transfer is to a sibling with a disability. Other than that, it's going to go through the normal probate process. It's going to be up to the judicial officer. Also, there is going to be a Medicaid payback if that's something that, if that individual had Medicaid. So, and how that works is that Medicaid would have to file a claim. They don't necessarily get the first bite at the apple. The money, whatever outstanding qualified disability expenses can actually be paid out of the account. That can go from funeral costs, burial costs, if a private student loan that typically does not go away once the individual dies and a parent's co-sign on that particular loan, something like that, that's considered a qualified disability expense. The money can be used that way. And then after that, if there's money left over, and then that money is going to go to Medicaid payback. But Medicaid payback is only from the day the account was open. So say like if an individual unfortunately passes away, they have an ABLE account and they were on Medicaid, and Medicaid actually paid for a surgery prior to them opening up this account, and then they pass away, Medicaid can't come back and say, hey, I need my money back from that surgery that I paid for. They can't do that because that was prior to them opening up the account. So Medicaid payback is only from the day in which the account was opened. Can a power of attorney who is also the payee open the account? Now with the power of attorneys, it gets a little tricky, and now I know here, and maybe Robert can talk about this a little bit, because there's conservatorship, guardianship laws, and things like that. So it just depends what type of express powers that power of attorney has. But typically a power of attorney is considered an ALR. So it would probably go the same way. If you're a parent or guardian, a parent who is also someone's rep payee, yeah, you can open up and administer the account for the individual. It would work the same way. Any other questions? Okay, so once again, if you need additional information, please feel free to contact me, az-able@azds.gov. I'm available to present organizations, parent groups, night, day, weekends, no matter what. So I'm going to be turning it over to Robert Fleming, who's an attorney. I actually have to make a list because he's a man of many talents. He's an attorney that specializes in elder law, estate planning, special needs planning, guardianship, conservatorship, long-term planning, and probate. He is an awesome guy because he's also the attorney member and the chairman of my board, the AZ Able Oversight Committee. And so I'm gonna let you take it over, Robert. Thank you guys for having me.
You forgot bassoonist.
Oh.
Not for some years. Let me start with the last thing that Brittany talked about. Can you open an ABLE Act account if you have a power of attorney and you are also the payee? Yes, you can. Unless your power of attorney is restricted in some way. If you have a healthcare power of attorney, no, you probably can't open an ABLE Act account with that. But a financial power of attorney, a general financial power of attorney, yes. One of the really cool things about Arizona's ABLE Act account and the Ohio account that it's based on is they don't ask you to prove a lot of this. They just ask you to check boxes. Do you have a power of attorney? Yeah, I have a power of attorney. Okay, good. Were you disabled before age 26? Yes, I was. Oh, okay, let's go on. So you're not going to be audited very much. The ABLE account is fantastic, and if anybody has the stimulus money and they don't quite know what to do with it, I think it is a terrific moment to open your ABLE Act account. You already have some money to finance that. And as Brittany says, that gets you out of the box of trying to prove that this $1,200 is the stimulus money, this $1,200 that puts you over the SSI $2,000 limit for the next year. As Nicholas pointed out, you've got a year though. So it's not like you have to do this tomorrow before well, I wouldn't say tomorrow. You don't have to do it before June 1st, but it's a good time to be opening up an ABLE Act account. They are terrific. They are a great way for autonomy and self-determination on the part of the ABLE participant. There's no effect on benefits except in the most peculiar of circumstances. And I'm really apologetic. Everything about the eligibility system is incredibly stupidly complicated. It doesn't need to be this complicated. I often say darkly that if you were going to design a system that was bewilderingly complicated, who would you want to design it for? How about the most vulnerable and susceptible population in the community? And that's what they've done. So don't worry as much about these rules as people would like you to worry. You'll hear lots of, oh, but what about this? Yeah, but the what about this is usually very narrowly defined. And so don't panic because you read that, for instance, qualified disability expenses. Well, what if my expense is not a qualified disability expense? By the way, if you want to argue that gambling and alcohol are qualified disability expenses, I'm probably there for you. I'm probably willing to go to bat and try to argue that they're qualified disability expenses. But here's one of the cool things about the ABLE Act. If you spend the money on something that is not a qualified disability expense, it has no effect on your benefits. The only thing that happens is you owe a little teeny tiny bit of income tax, maybe. So I can give you the details, but if you spent $100 at the casino, the odds of you having any consequence whatsoever are really, really close to zero. And that makes this much more attractive, though it's a little bit scary to skate on the edge. So I encourage people to use this. Now, there are some problems with ABLE Act accounts. No doubt about it. They're not all roses and whatever. They're roses and unicorns. Is that the right reference? I don't know. There are some problems. One is you have to meet the eligibility requirements that Brittany talked about. Another is that you can't put more than $15,000 a year, or as Brittany says, $27,760 is the number this year if you are employed and you earn at least $12,760. Another problem is there is that payback on your death. It's going to pay back Medicaid. And by the way, the Medicaid calculation is not whether they paid for a surgery. Brittany's illustration is really good, but that's not how they calculate their payback. They calculate their payback on the amount that they pay every month for your Medicaid coverage. So even though you don't have any surgery in the 5 years after you open your ABLE Act account, even though you don't use Medicaid, the mere fact that you were signed up for the system costs you on the order of $400 a month out of your ABLE Act account when you die. There's no real authority for a representative payee to act, though I can tell you that I know of lots of cases where somebody has indicated that they have a power of attorney and nobody has checked them on it, and accounts are getting opened, but parents and guardians can do it, and so there's usually somebody who can do it. There are these really complicated and stupid rules about if you transfer money out of the ABLE Act account. One of the questioners said, how do we just get cash out of the ABLE Act account? My answer is don't do it, because that's when the stupid rules kick in. If you take out, let's say you have an ABLE Act account and you take out $1,000 for your rent and you don't pay the rent until after the first of the month. So it's sitting in your regular banking account over the first of the month. Well, suddenly it's an available resource, even though you intended to use it for something. If you take it out in order to pay for adaptive equipment, and while it's sitting in your account over the first, you think, the adaptive equipment isn't ready. I think I'll use it to go to the casino, and you spend $1,000 in the casino. Well, taking the $1,000 out for a casino expense didn't cause you any problems, but having $1,000 in your account that ultimately gets used for the casino on the first of the month, that causes your problem. Incredibly stupid rules. And so you have to be kind of attentive to those rules. The absolute best thing that the ABLE Act account can get used for, in my experience, and what I do a lot of, is special needs trusts, and what I really want to talk about is special needs trusts. But the absolute best thing is it's a way to pay for housing without incurring the in-kind support and maintenance rules of SSI that cause a reduction in your SSI benefits. So if my son is on SSI, and I don't like the group home he's in, and I want him somewhere else, and I have enough money I can pay $1,000 a month for his better group home, well, that $1,000 a month is going to reduce his SSI benefit by about $250 a month. It's another stupidly complicated calculation, but let's just get straight to the bottom line. My $1,000 largesse costs him $250 a month, more or less. But if I put that $1,000 in an ABLE Act account, and the ABLE Act account pays the $1,000 every month, no effect. His SSI goes back up. It's completely magic. The absolute best use of ABLE accounts for a lot of people. And that means if it's, instead of me doing this, it's my son's special needs trust doing it, win-win-win. The money gets used in the most appropriate way, no effect on SSI benefits. He continues to receive the maximum SSI. So everything works very well. Is the ABLE Act account a substitute for the special needs trust? No, it's a great adjunct to a special needs trust, but partly because of the $15,000 limitation, it's not an alternative to the special needs trust. So now I have a son who has a disability. I want to leave him money when I die. Couldn't I just put it in his ABLE Act account? Well, only if I die leaving him less than $15,000. Even if I leave it to him as an inheritance, he still can't have more than $15,000 come into the ABLE Act account. And if I put my inheritance, his inheritance from me, into his ABLE Act account, then nobody else can contribute to his ABLE Act account that year. And by the way, somebody asked, does it roll over? Yeah, your money rolls over, but your $15,000 gift limitation doesn't roll over. If you don't get it used up in a given calendar year, you lose that $15,000. But a special needs trust that says, among the things that the trustee can do is to put money into the ABLE Act account, what a great idea. One of the problems with special needs trusts is my son can't handle the money himself, and he's actually pretty capable of doing it. By the way, I have an imaginary son who has a disability. My actual son, every once in a while, somebody who has listened to me talk meets him and says, yeah, I thought you had a disability. And he says, yeah, my father's always talking about his son with a disability. So if you meet Eric, his only disability is that he's a teacher in an environment that doesn't favor teachers. In any case, my imaginary son is pretty capable. He could manage at least small amounts of money. Maybe he could manage even large amounts of money, but he can't because he's on SSI. What a great opportunity. I can say in my special needs trust, trustee, put $15,000 a year into his ABLE Act account. He can manage that. He can spend it all in 1 month. He can blow it at the casino and pay the income tax consequence, the $1.75 of income tax. He just can't hold the money in his personal account or under his mattress over the first of any month. That's really the only limitation. So it's a great way to use a special needs trust. I can go on, and I'm not going to. Are there questions about special needs trusts and ABLE Act accounts? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'll jump in and summarize here. So the two clarifying questions, I think, about the ABLE Act. One was asking if you were talking about most powers of attorneys being able to start an ABLE account. Does that include parental powers of attorneys, was the question?
So if a parent gives somebody a power of attorney to manage the parent, can the agent under the power of attorney use that power to fund the parent's child's ABLE Act account? Is that, you think that's what we're asking?
I think the question is if a person with a disability has a power of attorney, gives their power of attorney to a parent, can the parent use that power of attorney to start an ABLE account?
Yes, absolutely. But they don't have to, because they can start it as a parent.
Great.
I see Brittany mouthing that answer as well.
And then the second ABLE clarifying question was about the comment about putting the stimulus check in your bank account causing issues with commingling of funds. And they were wondering if the fact that this is a stimulus check that everyone knows about are going to help with arguing that it's not commingled or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think Brittany meant to say it's a bad thing and it will cause you problems. It's just that it has the potential to be misunderstood or misapprehended. And the problem is not that the $1,200 causes any problem, because it doesn't. You can have that for up to a year, as Nicholas said. But if you had $1,000 in your bank account and you put the stimulus check in, and then over the next couple of months, you added another $1,000, which of that money is stimulus money and which of that money is just an accumulation? And to avoid that confusion, Brittany's idea, which I wholly endorse, is why don't you just put that in an ABLE Act account and get it out of the mix, and then you don't have the 12-month problem and you have your ABLE Act set up.
Great.
Worry about that money being counted as a resource.
Yeah.
And then the people were wondering about where they can go to find more information about special needs trusts. And Nicholas was helpful in pointing people to the Disability 101 website. Are there other resources online if people want to read about this on their own that you would recommend, Robert?
Yeah, there's this little law firm in Tucson that has a terrific website with a ton of information. It's at www.elder-law.com. And we're just full of information. It's not me. I would never self-promote. They are full of information about special needs trusts all over the place, and a fair amount about the mechanics of dealing with the coronavirus, the pandemic, the COVID-19, whichever characterization you want.
And then we have a raised hand, so I'm going to go to Kathy in a minute. And then after that, there was a question earlier about guardianship and stimulus that maybe we can get back to. But I'm going to go to Kathy right now. Kathy, I'm unmuting you.
Thank you for all the great information today. And is it Richard Fleming?
Robert,
I'm sorry. Robert, I'm a parent, and I think the biggest issue for most parents as we get older and thinking about our children, who could outlive us, is, to be honest, the expense of setting up a special needs trust. So I have two questions. One is this something we can do on ourselves online, like setting up a will? They say we can go and set up our own thing online for, our last wishes with our spouses or whatever. So is that something we could? And the second question is, what is a lot of parents can't work right now, and it is, I've heard it's around $3,000 to set up a trust. What is the least expensive way to get this done?
So a couple of things about that. Can you do it yourself? Yes, absolutely. With the closure of barber shops, I'm cutting my own hair now, and you see how that. Sure, go ahead and do your own will. Sometimes I jokingly say, if everybody will write their own will and by extension their own special needs trust, my kids will go to much better colleges because the amount the lawyers get will end up being more. Now that's glib, partly because both of my kids have graduated from college and I already know how good the college that they're going to is. Can you do it yourself? Yes, but it's very complicated. And part of the complication is that there are two different kinds of special needs trusts. So anytime you go online and try to look up special needs trust, you run the risk of reading about the wrong kind. You're not probably going to find a lot of forms for self-settled special needs trust, the kind your child would create for themselves if they had received an unrestricted inheritance or a personal injury settlement or something. Most of the forms you're going to find, if you find any, will be for third-party special needs trust, which is the kind that you would need in order to leave an inheritance to it. But here's the real issue. yes, it's good to save money, and I like to save money myself. But if you are leaving enough money into a special needs trust to make a difference in your child's life, then the cost of establishing the special needs trust is probably really quite minor in the big picture. And that's, again, that's easy for me to say because I'm getting the check, not writing the check. But talk to a lawyer. You might be surprised that it doesn't cost as much as you thought it might, or that there are really good reasons to use the lawyer to do it.
Okay. Thank you.
So the question about guardianship was, if the person's guardian is the state, who gets the stimulus payment? And I'm sorry, I forgot I meant to go back and touch on that very early, but better late than never. First of all, the state is never anyone's guardian. When people say, if the state is the guardian, X, well, but that's a false premise. The public fiduciary might be the guardian. The public fiduciary is a county office in Arizona. Some other states do, the state does act as guardian, but not in Arizona. But the real question is, who's the payee? Who's receiving the SSI or SSD payment? Because that's who's going to get this, or who should already have gotten the stimulus payment. If you're getting your SSI by direct deposit into your account and you have a guardian, well, it's a little bit of an unusual circumstance, but if that's true, your stimulus payment dropped right into that same account already, should already have happened. If you are the payee for your child and the public fiduciary is the guardian, the stimulus check will go right into the Social Security account where your direct deposit is going now. If you don't have direct deposit, then a check will come out, made out to the same person as on the Social Security or SSI payment. So I hope that answers that. What we're doing when we act as guardian or payee or fiduciary of any kind with stimulus money is we are trying to push it out as much as we can to the beneficiaries. And I think that's true of most people who handle other people's money, but it doesn't always make sense.
So there's a question from Annette, and I don't know if it's for you, Robert, or for another one of our speakers. I'm going to read it. Are the federal economic income stimulus payments counted as income subject to allocation expenses to group home facilities in Arizona? Is there guidance to the facilities on how these funds should be spent? i.e., are they personal funds? Can they pay group home facilities? If so, where can we find guidance about this?
I think Nicholas might also have the answer or a better answer, but I think that the law says that that these distributions are not income for any public benefits program, and so they shouldn't be counted for share of cost or for expenses at the group home or anything else. Is that right, Nicholas?
That is correct. These are not. This is very, very clear on these stimulants. These are not income. Therefore, they cannot be used for any income needs-based activities. Group home payments is one of those things, right? So these are personal funds. A group home cannot use it for their funds. It is for the individual. And that is where it's very important. These stimulants are for the individual to use as the individual chooses, which is why it would be great to put it into an ABLE account for the individual. Because one of the things that I think is very important about ABLE accounts, the individual is in charge of that money. Yes, if they have a payee or guardian, that's a different issue. But the ABLE accounts are created so individuals have rights to use their money for their needs.
Exactly.
I'm done.
Thank you. And I guess Annette's following up, like where could she look to find that written down somewhere?
That's in the actual text of the CARES Act, which you can look up and read, and you can find that provision. But if you searched for something like, is the CARES Act distribution income, you're going to find lots of references that point you back to that statute.
And does anyone know if group homes were told this? Have they been communicated, or is it kind of on their own to find that information out based on what's out there?
This is Nicholas. That would have to be something that would actually have to speak to with DD or mental health, how they are sharing their information with their group homes. But that is some vital information that they need to know. And I think it is a responsibility for any group home or facility or provider, know what are the rights of the individuals they are serving. And so I think that is how it should be shared and acknowledged.
Thank you. Kathy, I see your hand up. I'm going to unmute you again.
Thank you. Not sure if this is for Nicholas or Robert, and I'm sorry if it was spoken to earlier. I had to step out to help my daughter for a minute. But I know in her account, she can only have a maximum of $2,000, and she has not received her stimulus check as of today. But if, you know, she gets bumps up over the $2,000 because, you know, she has money in there to pay her rent. She's living with us now, but she has an apartment. Is that going to jeopardize her SSI?
This is Nicholas. The stimulus check will not jeopardize or be considered a resource for up to a year.
Okay.
If she keeps that money in there for a year, that's going to be an issue.
Okay.
We are highly recommending utilizing that to open an ABLE account at this moment. If you take that stimulus check and instantly create an ABLE account, which is very easy to do, you can go on the ABLE account, and you can also go on DB 101, talks you through it completely. Set that $1,200, you now started your ABLE account, and it is not a resource.
Okay, thank you.
So 2 new questions in the chat. One is asking if the individual with the disability themselves can access funds in the ABLE account. And the second question, and I'll let you handle both, was asking about, so Kin writes, my son has an ABLE account since he was little. I am the parent who set it up. He will be turning 18 soon. Do I need to change anything? I will be applying for full guardianship for him.
Brittany, you're going to handle that one?
Okay. Someone unmute me. Okay, I was muted. Okay, so the first question was, I'm sorry, what was the first question?
Can an individual with disability access the funds in their account themselves?
Yes, that's the main thing about these accounts. ABLE accounts, AZ-ABLE accounts can actually be administered by the individual with the disability. So they have, their name is on the account, no one else's name is on the account, even if their parent is the administrator of the account. The person with the disability who is the beneficiary is going to be on the account, and someone with a disability can actually open, enroll, and administer their own account. And so in reference to the second question in regards to her son's getting ready to turn 18, does her son have a AZ-ABLE account? Because it's different for each state. If that person does have an AZ-ABLE account, okay.
They say yes, they say yes.
So typically what we ask them to do is that there's paperwork online. You'll just follow the instructions and fill out the paperwork and just submit it back to ABLE and Stable. And it will not cause any type of interruption with your account. And so it's quick and easy. But typically if your son is not able to administer the account himself, then yeah, you're gonna have to have some type of some guardianship to make sure that can be ongoing, so you can be ongoing with administering the account. However, if your son is able to administer the account himself, you'll just fill out that paperwork. But the whole process is online of what you need to do. And yeah, so.
Thank you. Just a reminder, if you're joining by phone and wish to share, you push *9 on your phone to raise your hand, and then we can unmute your phone and call on you. But I know it's a lot of information that you've just received, so I just want to honor that people process this at different rates and different times, so don't feel like you have to have all your questions right now if it takes you longer to process.
John, I think somebody asked if they could reach out to any of us with follow-up questions. And I don't necessarily want to speak for Nicholas. I don't mind speaking for Brittany because I know the answer for her. Her answer is yes, yes, yes. My answer is also yes.
So Nicholas will speak for himself. I actually prefer not to have individuals reach out to me directly. I am fine with working with organizations and providers. What we do have on Arizona DB 101 is that we contract with Abilities 360 to answer questions. And I think they are the most important people to respond to this. They will have work incentives, consultants that are able to ask benefit answers. They will be able to direct you through DB 101 individually. They will be able to give additional supports and resources well beyond what I can do as a policy person. So not being cold, just being directive with my time.
Well, if I can take a step back, Nicholas, and say, most people's questions, if they will go to the Arizona Disability 101 and look, the answer is probably there.
Thank you, Robert.
Sometimes I even refer to it because it's very good information.
Thank you. So I want to take this opportunity that everything that we've talked about today, Robert's share, Brittany's share, all of this information you can actually get and touch on it within DB 101. Disability benefits is not just about benefits and it's all about disability resources in Arizona. You can get a ton of stuff there. I'm not selling anything. I'm just being a hardcore advocate, providing you a resource where you can get questions answered 24/7. And it will lead you to information about trust, to give you some guidance about maybe some trust that will work for you. So when you go talk to a lawyer, you already have some information. It'll talk you through the whole ABLE account. And it talks about how the ABLE account and trust funds go together, which I think is vital to think about. I think that the most important way that we can support people with intellectual and developmental disabilities is to provide them the best opportunity to manage their own funds without this fear factor. And DB 101 takes care of that fear.
So there's someone has shown some love for DB 101 website in the chat. So I think that's true. I guess I have a question. It might be kind of hard, and I'm going to ask Robert, but I know that it might sound self-serving maybe a little bit. But if someone does want to talk to a lawyer, how do they find a lawyer to talk to?
Oh, thank you. What a good question. Just call me. No, that's not the right answer. The right answer is find a lawyer in your community. In Arizona, we can practice anywhere in Arizona, but it really, I think, helps to have somebody local who, once the pandemic is eased up, you can actually sit across a conference table and chat with. So you want to find somebody in your community who knows something about special needs trusts and ABLE Act accounts. And I just read a post on a different list today from somebody who said, I'm trying to find a lawyer through the state bar and it's just very frustrating. Yeah, that's not where I would go to look. I belong, and one of my partners also belongs to a group called the Special Needs Alliance, which is www.specialneedsalliance.org, all spelled out. And that is a terrific resource. There are 4 Special Needs Alliance lawyers in Arizona. Well, 5 if you count my partner and me. There's another lawyer in Tucson named Victoria Blair Struess, and then there are 2 lawyers in Phoenix named Bridget Swartz and Emily Kyle, who are members of that group. And those are the first 5 people I would contact for more information about special needs trusts. First 5 lawyers I would contact. Obviously, lawyers don't have a complete lock on the information. As Nicholas has pointed out, there's a lot of information out there in the world. And some of it is at the Special Needs Alliance website, some of it's on our website. Again, Nicholas's website is just a terrific resource, trying to figure out how much you can earn and still stay on SSI. That hat back there is off to anybody who can explain that to another human being.
So there's a question about if anyone knows when Ability 360 might have face-to-face guidance again. And I know that might not be someone anyone knows or that anyone in the world might know, but does anyone have any insights into that?
This is Nicholas. I cannot speak directly for that, but I can only imagine the fact that we're dealing with a very high risk population, that we are just going to have to be very patient and guide. I know that there are some Ability 360 individuals on this call, and I know that they are doing the best they can to be able to provide the services necessary. But we need to be very cautious for the population we deal with and the population and everybody around us. I just think we all, my personal opinion, need to take a breath and just let the world move forward. And we can't rush this. If we rush this, we will continue to have the genocide. And yes, I'm using that word, genocide of the people that we're serving and us with disabilities. So we need to be very patient and cautious.
Thank you. A question, I think, for Robert. Do you need to have assets and money first before you set up a third-party trust?
You don't. Some people fund their third-party special needs trusts with life insurance, for instance. So even if you have no assets whatsoever, but have a life insurance policy, you could establish the trust and make it the beneficiary of the policy. Some people set up trusts, even though they have not very much in resources, so that their mother or their grandfather or some other family member can contribute to money to the benefit of the child with a disability. So yeah, you can do it even though you don't have assets right now. Obviously, it becomes much more urgent when you are thinking about your own estate planning. And people are thinking a lot about their estate planning this last 60 days or so, I've noticed.
Okay, we're getting close here to 1 o'clock. I want to give just a minute or two more for people to process, and just know that it's okay to have a little silence here. And then we'll send it over to Natalie if there are no more questions in about a minute here to close. So people are appreciative of the speakers. John also shared a message from Ability 360, which doesn't give any kind of timeline, but echoes what Nicholas was talking about, that this is tough decisions that they're making, and so they don't want to act too quickly here. Lynn shares from Ability 360, there is not a determined opening date. Okay, I don't see any hand raised and I don't see any questions, so I'm going to send it over to Natalie for now.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Oh, did we have any more questions? Anything else, Nicholas?
Yeah, Annette has a question. I'm going to unmute you. Let me find you. Annette?
Nick?
Yes. Hi, you're live on the meeting.
Yeah, the question is actually a private question. I had asked if I could contact you at a later time.
Sure, absolutely. I'll put IHD's email in the chat. That'll get to me. I'll put you back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
One thing, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just read Lynn talked about Lynn Black, who is with Ability 360, did stress the fact that Ability 360 is still doing phone meetings. So that's not that there's no services, just no face-to-face. So still utilize Ability 360 for incredible resources. I'm done.
Thank you, Nicholas. I really appreciate it. So hello again, everybody. I'm Natalie Luna Rose. I'm with the Arizona Center for Disability Law. I wanted to thank Nicholas, Robert, and Brittany for their time today to give us this really valuable information. And while we're not perhaps as specialized as Robert is, we are still open, and we do kind of do a more broader reach with with the work that we're doing, and we have our attorneys, everybody's working. We're all working from home. In fact, we just are going through discussion right now when we think we all may be back in the office. Probably not for another month or so, but we are definitely open and definitely ready and for any of your questions or follow-up, or if you have another legal question. So our website is azdisabilitylaw.org. You can always email me at nluna@azdisabilitylaw.org, and I will put that in the chat, or if somebody could for me. We will, this is our 7th session, so I can't believe we've gone through 7 weeks of this already. And if you have any suggestions for next week of what you would like to see for discussion, we welcome it. You can either, again, email me or any of the other, or Sarah Roof. These have been very valuable. I think the last 7 weeks when we first started it was, we weren't sure how this was going to work, and it has evolved, I think, to something that has been, is really needed. So again, thank you for your time. If there's any other questions, please put it in the chat. And if not, then we've got, we'll say sayonara and see you next week.